Do you see in this enlarged photograph that the saline bag, can you see where it has a slit or a cut in the bag where I'm pointing in People's 28?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Did you observe that on that day, June 25th, 2009?
No, sir.
Okay. And again, referencing your diagram where you had drawn an apparatus at the bottom of this saline bag, would that, well, let me, one moment. Can you see those two pictures, Mr. Alvarez?
Yes, sir.
Okay. The saline bag that you drew, as reflected in People's 27 on the right here, you show the saline bag coming down and terminating, and then it appears there's an additional apparatus attached to it. Is that accurate?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Then looking at the saline bag as reflected in People's 28, is the apparatus visible, or would the apparatus have been, to your recollection, connected to this port?
It is not visible, sir.
Okay. So to be clear, People's 28, what I'm calling a port, you see this, you understand to what I'm referring at the bottom of People's 28 as it's shown right now?
Yes.
Okay. That would be reflected in People's 27 as this portion above the apparatus. What happened when you first walked into the room?
When I walked into the room and I turned towards my right, I observed Mr. Conrad Murray giving chest compressions to Mr. Jackson.
Okay. So he had proceeded into the room in front of you.
Yes.
And evidently had gone over to where Michael Jackson was located.
Correct.
And was giving compressions.
Yes, sir.
You held the bag open and he, just dropped the vials in there?
Yes, sir. He reached into the bag and dropped the vials.
Okay. And did you then put that bag somewhere?
Yes, he proceeded to instruct me. He said, now place that bag in a brown bag. And there was a brown bag that was on the side of a...
Dusting powder on it and blackened as it is here in court today?
No, sir.
Okay.
Double negative.
Did it appear as it appears in court here today with blackened fingerprint powder on it?
It did not.
Okay. And does this appear, as you look at People's 29, does it appear to be the same bag, at least in general appearance?
Yes, sir.
Okay. But for the apparatus that you previously described as being attached to it?
Correct.
Okay. Then showing you People's, may I present this to the jury for a moment, Your Honor? To show the slit.
Mr. Chernoff?
No objections.
Is this an offer or
Are we in evidence?
Not yet. It's
No,
being-
then no, Judge. I object until he offers it into evidence.
I will not go. I can't show the jury the... Okay.
It's
Nothing
not
of the
evidence.
sort. Well, I thought counsel said there's no objection.
Well, there isn't, but he hasn't, is it in evidence then?
It won't be moved into evidence until the termination.
Do you want to address something at sidebar?
Sure.
May we?
And I just want to make sure everyone can visibly see the cut in the bag. Did the court require if everyone was able to see that, Your Honor?
I will. Have the jurors review the item? Thank you. All jurors indicating the affirmative. Mr. Walken started at the far end of the jury box where the alternates are located and worked his way down to the front of the jury box where the first jurors and others are located. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. At this time, Your Honor, I'd also like to mark for identification what was previously booked as LAPD item 106. I'd ask that this be marked Peoples 30 for identification.
Marked.
I'd also ask to move it into evidence at this time.
Mr. Chernow?
Yes, no objections.
Okay. People's 30 is received in evidence.
May I retrieve scissors from your clerk, Your Honor?
All right. Why don't you indicate its present form and what you want to do?
I have what was previously booked as LAPD evidence item 106, marked as Peoples 30 for identification. It is a 100 milliliter propofol bottle in a sealed plastic bag. At this time, what I'd like to do is open this sealed plastic bag so that I could retrieve Peoples 30 from that bag.
Any objections?
No objections.
Thank you. You may.
At this time, I'm using scissors to cut open the evidence item. I'm now holding Peoples 30. Mr. Alvarez, showing you Peoples 30, and if I could take a moment, Your Honor, to publish this to the jury.
Is there any objection, Mr.
No
Chernow?
objections.
Thank you. You may. Again, starting in that same area, working the way down to the other jurors.
I've done so, Your Honor.
Thank you. Has the jurors seen the exhibit? Indicating affirmative. Thank you. Thank you. Resumption of direct, Mr. Walker.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Mr. Alvarez, we left off talking about the large propofol bottle inside the saline bag and you placing that in the bag, the other bag, at Conrad Murray's instruction. After these events took place that you've been describing before the break, at that time, did Conrad Murray instruct you to call 911?
Yes, sir.
Do you recall what his exact words were?
He said, call 911.
Okay. And do you know from your phone records that that call was placed by you at 12:20 p.m.?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You've reviewed your phone records?
Correct.
Okay. And that call is reflected in People's 26. The bottom of People's 26, 12:20, Alberto Alvarez calling 911 emergency operator, 163 seconds. Do you see that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Did you call 911?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Now, from the time you terminated your phone call with Michael Amir to the time you called 911, in that period of time, is that when these events took place that you've described?
Yes, it was.
So that was a very short period of time. Is that fair to say?
It was a fast period of time, I would say. Yes, sir.
Separating what can the observations you made, the observations of Mr. Jackson laying on the bed with his palms up, the observations of the condom catheter, and the observations, for example, of the IV stand. Were these isolated observations, or were these observations you were making simultaneously to these events taking place?
Counsel's leading the witness.
Sustained.
Were these observations, you can answer yes or no, were these observations made simultaneously to these events taking place?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And during this short period of time, would this be the period of time that you ushered Paris and Prince out of the room?
Yes.
Okay.